among your families in two or three things only. Diversification is my idea of something I have practically no interest in, except as it happens automatically in a big place like Berkshire. I rejoiced the day I got rid of a stock quoting machine. And I like this buy and hold investing. It's a lovely way to live a life, and you deal with a better class of people. And it's worked pretty well for all of us. And I don't think you need to worry about Warren's side investments. His investments through Berkshire are so huge, and those are so small relatively that if that's your main problem in life, you have a very favored life.
Well, if you have 98.5% of your money in Berkshire, and you really are trying to do your thinking about what's best for the 1.5%, you're a little bit crazy. You should be thinking about Berkshire, which I can assure you I do.
Well, when you use the word EBITDA, I thought to myself, I don't even like hearing the word. There's so much nutcase thinking involving EBITDA. Earnings before what really counts in costs.
Yeah. We prefer EBE, which is earnings before everything.
Right.
It's nonsense. And I mean, if you compare a business that leases pencils or something like that, where they all get depreciated in a 2-year period, and then compare that to some business that uses virtually no capital, like See's Getty, it's just nonsense. But it works for the people that sell businesses. It's like Charlie's friend that used to sell fishing flies, right?
Right. Okay. Said, I don't sell these lures to fish.
The important thing is that you make your decisions based on what you think the business is worth. And if you make your buy and sell decisions based on what you think a business is worth, and you stick with businesses that you think you've got good reason to think you can value, you simply have to do well in stocks. The stock market is the most obliging, money-making place in the world, because you don't have to do anything. You sit there with thousands of businesses being priced at the same price for the buyer and the seller, and it changes every day, and you've got lots of information about most of those businesses, and you don't have to do anything. Compare that to any other investment alternative you've got. I mean, you can't do that with farms. If you own a farm and the guy has the farm next to you and you kind of like to buy him out or something, he's not going to name a price every day at which he'll buy your farm or sell you his farm. But you can do that with, you can do it with Berkshire Hathaway or IBM. It's a marvelous game. I mean, the rules are stacked in your favor if you don't turn those rules upside down and start behaving like the drunken psychotic instead of the guy that's there to take advantage of him. Charlie?
Well, what's interesting about this place is that I think we've had a lot more fun when we got rich enough so we bought businesses and stocks to hold instead of to resell. It's an enormously more constructive life. So as fast as you can work yourself into our position, the better off you'll be.
And you should be very encouraged by the fact that he's only 88 and I'm only 81. Just think, it may take you a little while.
Well, I want to report that Warren's view on taxes for the rich has reduced my popularity around one of my country clubs.
If it keeps him from hanging around the country club, I'm all for it.
And it's a disadvantage I'm willing to bear in order to participate in this enterprise.
Yeah. Charlie and I, we don't disagree on as many things as you might think, but we certainly have disagreed on some things over 53 years. We've never had an argument in 53 years, and maybe you can get one started here if you work on it. But it's irrelevant. I mean, roughly half of the country is going to feel from one way, this November, and the other half's going to feel a different way. And if you start selecting your investments or your friends or your neighbors based on trying to get people that agree with you totally, you're going to live a pretty peculiar life, I think.
And I think what's happening now is, to use your word, it's idiotic. we are using up a precious resource which we need to create fertilizer and so forth, and sparing a resource which is precious but not as precious, which is thermal coal. If I were running the United States, I would use up every ounce of thermal coal before I'd touch a drop of natural gas. But the conventional view is exactly the opposite. I think those natural gas reserves we just found are the most precious things we could leave our descendants. I'm in no hurry to use it up, and the gas is worth more than the coal.
Despite the wild things we've seen in pricing, particularly this ratio of natural gas prices to oil, you can't change. I mean, the installed base is so huge when you get into electricity generation that you can't really change the percentages too much, although there has been a shift in recent months to where gas generation is feasible. It has supplanted some coal generation, and certainly in the future you're going to see a diminution in the percentage of electricity generated from coal in this country. But it won't be dramatic, because it can't be dramatic. You just can't. The megawatts involved are just too huge to have some wholesale change. It's going to be very interesting to see how this whole gas-oil ratio plays out, because it has changed everyone's thinking, and it's changed in a very short period of time. I mean, 3 years ago, people wouldn't have said this was possible.
Yeah, the conventional wisdom of the economics professors is that if it happens in a free market, it must be okay, and it'll work out best in the end. That is not my view with 100% accuracy. I think there are exceptions to that idea. And I think it's crazy to use up natural gas at these prices.